In the popular Netflix show Squid Game, 456 contestants, all on the brink of financial ruin, willingly choose to participate in a series of 6 children's games for a large cash prize, even with deadly costs. The show was an absolute success and brought in over $900 million for Netflix, but the shocking plot of Squid Game wasn't only to serve as entertainment. Squid Game highlights the current state of wealth inequality and showcases how the lack of financial literacy education can lead to despair. Now, before we dive into the contents of this TED Talk, I have a few questions for the audience, and I ask you to engage. First, raise your hand if you know what financial literacy is. Okay, my next question for you is raise your hand if you know what percentage of the United States is financially literate. And my last question for you is raise your hand if you know how financial literacy can transform local and national economies. By the end of this TED Talk, you'll be able to walk away not only knowing the answers to these 3 questions, but also understanding how financial literacy can be a tool to uplift marginalized groups and communities across the country. But before we dive into that specifically, it's important that we have an established definition of what financial literacy is, what that means, and why it is important. Financial literacy is the ability to understand and effectively use various financial skills, including personal financial management, budgeting, and investing. Financial literacy goes beyond knowing a list of terms and topics, but also about how you know to apply those terms and topics to a wide variety of situations in order to make the strongest financial decisions you possibly can. Now more than ever, teenagers are expected to leave high school with a strong financial understanding before they make decisions about college and future career pathways. But the lack of unified and comprehensive financial literacy programs among the current school structure sets them up badly. According to the Financial Educators Council, 39% of adults don't have any retirement savings. Furthermore, 56% of adults don't have a budget, and 76% of college students wanted more help preparing for their financial futures. In addition, 43% of young Americans wish they were taught about how to invest. 40% wish they were taught about how to file taxes, and 26% wish they were taught about how to manage monthly bills. Other practical topics, like how to ask for a salary increase, how to save for retirement, and how to buy a house, are simply not taught through unified school programs, and parents are left to teach their children these aspects of financial literacy on their own. Beyond simply knowing financial topics, however, financial literacy indirectly and directly impacts democratic processes in our country specifically. Young voters vote with pocketbook issues on the top of their mind, and politicians often have to address these hot issues, such as student debt, economic stability, job growth, unemployment, taxes, and healthcare costs in order to connect with this demographic of voters. Furthermore, personal financial issues quickly can become larger problems for local economies. When a consumer's credit card debt rises, they have less money to spend at local shops and restaurants. When an employee defaults on a car loan, they can't effectively get to and from work. And lastly, when millennials accumulate massive amounts of student loan debt, they have a harder time putting a down payment on their first house. This once again reiterates how important financial literacy is for the local economy. The lack of financial literacy education can immensely impact communities negatively. However, on the alternative side of that, by adopting financial literacy into accessible school curriculums, we can uplift groups, specifically marginalized groups, across the country. Throughout the history of the United States, a wide range of measures have been taken to economically oppress people of color. For example, redlining, a practice undertaken by the United States government in order to outline areas where Black residents lived and were therefore deemed risky investment property areas, restricted the development of generational wealth. Furthermore, the government's racist theory, based in the popular pseudoscience of the era, social Darwinism, pretty much outlined that any population of Black residents was a sign of impending property value decline. So private investors and lenders started using these government-made maps as well, and which effectively barred Black homebuyers from engaging with secure mortgages from many mainstream banks. However, through the use of financial literacy, we can uplift marginalized groups and communities across the nation. In addition, Florida International University's Metropolitan Center cites that 14.4% of United States residents are living in households without food security. And the United States is actually ranked number 14 by the Standard & Poor's Global Financial Literacy Survey when it comes to the percentage of adults in our country who are financially literate and can make financially sound decisions. To put that into perspective, the United States has the world's largest national economy based on nominal GDP, but only 57% of adults in the United States are financially literate, which is comparable to Botswana, except Botswana's economy is actually 1,127% smaller. The same study cited that only 4% of children from low-income families break the cycle of poverty and break into the upper middle class, which reiterates how important financial literacy is for our generation and for beyond. For many high school students now, going to college seems like a challenge, especially amidst dire economic times, strained financial resources, and the lack of support from the current school structure. According to the National Clearinghouse Research Center, there has been a 13% drop in the number of first-time freshmen, with even starker drops among certain demographic groups, like Black, Hispanic, and Native American students specifically. This isn't necessarily a loss of a gap year, but it's more a loss of potential income that could have been acquired through earning a four-year degree. Instilling financial literacy education should start early, as education level is highly correlated with financial literacy and the ability to make strong financial decisions. We have to be leveraging local partnerships and articulating well-defined priorities in order to meet these goals. Government leaders, universities, local economic development councils, community and business leaders, and representative stakeholders, such as young professionals and retirees, must work together in order to commit to the shared purpose of increasing financial literacy, specifically among underserved families and communities. For example, the Education Fund, which is a private sector leadership effort in Miami, Florida, supports public education, primarily through running programs such as their Smart Path program, which offers FAFSA marathon workshops and more, which helps students gain confidence in understanding financial literacy, but it also gives them a better idea for their futures. In fact, when teenagers were asked to define adulthood, financial independence often outweighed more traditional life milestones as perceived by society, like getting married, moving out on your own, or even graduating from high school or college. This not only reinforces how important financial literacy is, but it showcases how financial skills are put to the test every single year after graduation. Those who gain strong financial understandings are also more able to make knowledgeable decisions in other aspects of their lives. The benefits of financial literacy education carry over. So the real question is, are we just not prioritizing what is necessary to solidify the economic endurance of the next generation? Beyond the boxes, it's clear that financial literacy cultivates opportunities and continues to aid students throughout their lives. But now it's time for school districts across the nation to start asking the important questions. And it's time to start embedding financial literacy programs into public school curriculums, or else we may find Squid Game becoming a reality. Thank you.